You know that feeling, that incredibly specific, hollow sensation that hits you at 3 a.m. The party is over. The noise has stopped. The person next to you is asleep. And suddenly, the silence isn't just an absence of sound. It's a presence. It's a weight. It is the sudden, violent realization that the walls of your house, the job you stress about, and the name you call yourself are just thin sheets of paper held up against a hurricane of absolute nothingness. Most of the time, you don't look at it. You can't. If you looked at it directly, you'd never get out of bed. So, you build a life. You find someone to hold on to. You construct a warm, illuminated bubble to keep the dark out. But what happens when the bubble pops? This is the story of Ernest and Arcadia, but really, it's a story about you. It's about that moment when the script of your life glitches and you accidentally step off the stage and fall into the orchestra pit of the universe. It starts, as all great unravelings do, with the illusion of control. You are 18 years old. You are Ernest. You are sitting in the driver's seat of a car that smells like stale coffee and cold air. Beside you is Arcadia. You've just crossed that invisible threshold where childhood dissolves into the terrifying freedom of adulthood. It's the shedding of a skin. You feel powerful. You feel infinite. You feel that specific brand of immortality that only teenagers possess, where death is just a rumor that happens to other people. You are driving north, 2.5 hours into the spine of the state, where the cities bleed out into suburbs, and the suburbs decay into farmland, and the farmland is eventually swallowed by the indifferent, swallowing mouth of the forest. It is the dead of winter. The world is grayscale charcoal pavement, white snow, black trees. The only color in the universe is the dashboard lights and the face of the girl sitting next to you. You are heading to her family's cabin. A free getaway. An oasis. As the miles tick up, civilization ticks down. The exit ramps vanish. The cell service bars drop one by one like dying soldiers. You are entering the desolation, and curiously, the more desolate the world outside becomes, the warmer it feels inside the car. This is the paradox of intimacy. It requires a vacuum. You need the nothingness outside to feel the somethingness between you. You talk about everything. The small, beautiful, banal things. School, parents, the future. You are knitting a shared reality together, stitch by stitch. I'm going to be this. We are going to do that. You are building a fortress of words against the silence of the snow. You arrive. The cabin is a dark shape cut out of a darker wood. It looks like a relic. You unload the bags, shivering in the biting air, rushing to unlock the door. Click, you step inside. You flip a switch. Light, heat, safety. This place is sort of like an oasis in the middle of nothing, huh? You say, unpacking the groceries. Yeah, Arcadia replies, looking around with a nostalgia that softens her eyes. It always felt like an escape when I was a kid, like everything was okay here. That's the seduction of the shelter. It feels like a fortress. But deep down, in the lizard part of your brain, you know the truth. A cabin in the woods isn't a fortress. It's a lunchbox for bears. It's a fragile wooden shell that we convince ourselves is impenetrable. You settle in. You pour the drinks. Cheap vodka mixed with juice, the nectar of the young and broke. You sit in the living room, the heater humming its mechanical lullaby. You drink. You laugh. You peel back the layers of your souls. You feel that rush of connection, that dopamine hit that screams, I am not alone. And for a few hours, you aren't. But biology is a cruel timekeeper. Eventually, Arcadia's eyes get heavy. The vodka and the warmth do their work. She passes out on the couch, her breathing rhythmic, her face peaceful. And now, you are alone. You are Ernest, and you are wide awake. The alcohol in your system isn't making you sleepy, it's making you vibrate. You carry her to the bedroom, tuck her in, a gesture of tender domesticity, and then you walk back out into the living room. You sit down, you turn on the television. This is where the crack in the reality begins. It's late-night cable. The wasteland of media. You channel surf. Click, a news anchor talking about a war in a country you'll never visit. Click, a sports show analyzing a game played by millionaires. Click, A reality show where people scream at each other in a kitchen. Click. A nature documentary about chimpanzees. You stop on the chimps. The narrator has a soothing British voice, but the images are horrific. It's a turf war. Male chimpanzees are tearing apart a rival group. They are eating the infants. It is raw, unadulterated violence. It is chaos. You flip back to the reality show. People screaming, posturing, fighting for dominance. You flip to the news. Bombs dropping, territory disputes. You flip back to the chimps, screaming, biting, territory disputes. And suddenly, the wall comes down. You feel a sickness rising in your gut. It's not nausea, it's vertigo. You realize, with a clarity that cuts through the vodka haze, that there is no difference. The news, the reality show, the chimps, it's all the same thing. It's just packaged differently. We add laugh tracks, but underneath it all, we are just meat and electricity, fighting for space on a dying rock. The cabin feels too small. The heat feels suffocating. The television is just a glowing box of lies designed to distract you from the slaughter. You need air. You need out. You stand up. You put on your coat. You open the door and step out into the void. The cold hits you like a physical slap. It shocks your lungs. The snow is falling in slow motion. Millions of white particulates drifting down from an infinite black ceiling. You walk. You leave the safety of the cabin light. You walk through the lining of dead trees, their branches skeletal and accusing. You reach the pond. It's massive, a flat, white expanse frozen in time. It looks solid. It looks like a new floor for a new world. You walk out onto it. You keep walking until you are in the dead center. You stop. You turn around. The trees are just a jagged line on the horizon. The cabin is gone. There is no humanity here, just you, the ice, and the sky. You look up. The stars are out. Billions of them, hard, cold diamonds pinned against the velvet throat of the universe. You remember something you learned in a science class you barely paid attention to. Siffy, we are made of star stuff. Asterisk, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your brain. It was all forged in the nuclear heart of a dying star that exploded billions of years ago. It sounds poetic in a textbook. Out here, in the dark, it feels horrific. You trace it back. If you are made of stars, then you are ancient. But what made the stars? Hydrogen, gravity, dust. Where did the dust come from? The Big Bang. What was before the Big Bang? How can nothing explode into something? The thought spirals. It becomes a recursive loop in your brain. You strip away the layers of reality. You strip away the cabin, the car, the vodka, the girlfriend, the name Ernest. You strip away the biology. You are just atoms. You are just energy, vibrating in a vacuum. Why is there something rather than nothing? And then, the darker thought hits you. The one you can't unthink. If you came from nothing, and you return to nothing, then what is this? What is this brief flickering interval of consciousness? Is it a glitch? Are you just the universe's way of experiencing a momentary hallucination before it goes back to sleep forever? Does anything matter? If the heat death of the universe is inevitable, if every memory you have will eventually be erased, if every person you love will turn to dust, then isn't this entire experience just a cruel joke? You are standing on a frozen pond, screaming these questions inside your head, staring into the abyss of the night sky. You feel small, not humble, small, irrelevant small. You feel the crushing weight of your own absurdity, and then reality snaps. Crack. It's not a sound you hear, it's a sound you feel. A thunderclap beneath your feet. Before your brain can process the physics, gravity takes over. The world tilts. The solid ground vanishes. You drop. The shock is instant. It's not cold, it's pain. It is 1,000 knives stabbing every inch of your skin simultaneously. You are underwater. The silence of the cosmos is replaced by the roaring chaos of panicked water. You are submerged in black ink. The air is gone. The stars are gone. Your lizard brain wakes up. The philosopher is dead. The animal is in charge. Survive. Survive, survive. You thrash. You kick. Your hands claw at the jagged edges of the ice. It breaks. It crumbles. You are pulling the ceiling down on top of yourself. You swallow water. It tastes like mud and freeze. You find a solid edge. You heave. Your muscles scream. You drag your heavy, soaked body up out of the hole. You roll onto the snow. You are out. But you are not safe. You stand up. The wind cuts through your wet clothes like they aren't even there. Your body begins to seize. The shivering is violent, uncontrollable. It rattles your teeth. Panic sets in. Not the existential panic of the stars, but the primal panic of the prey. You need heat. You need the cabin. You run. You scramble toward the tree line. You crash through the underbrush. The cabin, you think. Just get to the cabin. You break through the trees into the clearing, and your heart stops. It's empty. There is no cabin. There is no car. There is no warm light. There is just an empty snow-covered lot. The surreal horror of it washes over you. Did you imagine it? Did the cabin ever exist? Are you already dead? You turned around. You got turned around on the ice. In your panic, you ran the wrong way. You ran deeper into the woods, not out of them. You spin around. Which way is north? Which way is the wind blowing? You don't know. The woods look the same in every direction. Fractal darkness. You run back the way you came, or what you think is the way you came. But the adrenaline is fading, and the cold is settling in. Your legs feel like lead pipes. Your feet are blocks of ice. You can't feel your fingers. Hypothermia is a seductive killer. It doesn't scream at you. It whispers. It tells you to rest. It tells you that sleep would be so nice. You stumble. You fall. You get up. You stumble again. The thoughts in your head begin to sludge. The sharp, terrified clarity you had on the ice is gone, replaced by a thick, grey fog. I am going to die, you think. It's not a question anymore. It's a statement of fact. You are going to die here, alone, in the dark, frozen to the ground like a discarded piece of trash. The grief hits you harder than the cold. You think of Arcadia. You think of her sleeping on the couch. You think of the warmth of that room. You realize, with devastating sadness, that you were wrong. Back in the cabin watching the television, you thought it was all fake. You thought the warmth was a lie, a distraction from the void. But now, lying in the snow, feeling the life drain out of you, you realize that the warmth wasn't a lie. It was the point. The universe, fears, sears, cold. Itiva, indifferent. Itiva, a chimp, eating another chimp. That is the baseline reality. But the cabin, the heater, the vodka, the girl, that was the miracle. We build the cabin fichu see, the woods are cold. We love each other fidambikaza, the stars don't care about us. The banality of normal life isn't a distraction. It's an act of rebellion. It is us carving out a tiny pocket of meaning in a universe that has none. You want that banality back. You would give anything, your soul, your future, everything, just to be bored and warm on a couch again. You curl into a ball. You huddle yourself around yourself. You close your eyes. The blackness pulls at you. It feels like gravity. It feels like going home. You drift. Time becomes non-linear. Seconds stretch into hours. You are floating in the void you were so afraid of. It's not scary anymore. It's just quiet. And then, a sound. Not the wind. Not the trees. A frequency that doesn't belong here. Earnest. It's distorted. Soft, like it's coming from underwater. Earnest. Your eyes snap open. The world is blurry. Earnest, follow my voice. It's Arcadia. Adrenaline scrapes the bottom of the barrel. You force your body to move. You crawl. You stand. You stumble toward the sound. Where are you? You try to scream, but your voice is a croak. Just keep following my voice. I'm right here. I'm right here. It's a game. A life or death game of Marco Polo, played in a frozen hellscape. You follow the sound. You follow the tether of love through the labyrinth of death. One step. Don't stop. If you stop, you die. And then, you see it. A glow. A yellow, geometric shape through the trees. A window. The cabin. You break through the final line of trees. You see the silhouette in the doorway. Arcadia. She is screaming your name. You stumble onto the driveway. You collapse. But you collapse into arms that are warm. You are dragged inside. The door slams shut. The wind is cut off. You are back in the bubble. You are shivering, soaking wet, half dead, and traumatized. But as you lie there on the rug, with the heater blasting and Arcadia crying and holding you, you look at the mundane objects around you. The cheap lamp, the empty vodka bottle, the television remote. They look like holy artifacts. You realize that you have seen the edge of the map. You have looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked back and tried to eat you. And you survived. You understand now. You understand why we play the game. You understand why we watch the sports and read the news and plan for the future. It's not because we are blind to the void. It's because the void is boring. The void is just ice and death. The game is where the warmth is. And speaking of the game we are all playing, this strange, complex, beautiful game of civilization, staying engaged with it is how we keep the lights on. The news gets a bad rap, and rightfully so. It's often terrifying, sensationalized, and designed to spike your cortisol. But completely checking out, that's just walking back out onto the ice. You need to know what's happening in the village to keep the wolves away. This is where today's sponsor, Fin Morning Brew, saves you. Morning Brew is the antidote to the doom scroll. It's a completely free daily newsletter that slides into your inbox every morning, Monday through Sunday. But unlike the heavy, depressing sludge you see on cable television, Morning Brew takes the most relevant news in business, tech, and finance, and turns it into something you actually want to read. It's witty, it's light, it's succinct, it respects your time. Think about it. We live in unusual economic times. The housing market is weird. Crypto is a roller coaster. The Fed is adjusting interest rates to fight inflation. These things sound boring, but they directly affect the price of the bread you eat and the roof over your head. You need to understand them. Morning Brew breaks it all down into bite-sized pieces that get you up to speed in just 5 minutes. It's like having a smart, funny friend explain the world to you over coffee, rather than a panic-stricken anchor screaming at you through a screen. It keeps you plugged into the matrix without letting the matrix crush you. If you are interested in being the smartest person in the room, or just feeling a little less lost in the chaos of the modern world, use the link in the description below and sign up for Morning Brew today. It takes 15 seconds. It's completely free. It's a small tool that adds a little bit of order to the entropy of your day, because in the end, that's all we have. The tools we build, the stories we tell, the people we hold on to. We are all just fragile biological machines huddled together in a cabin, surrounded by a dark, cold woods. The only thing that keeps the darkness out is the light we make for ourselves. So keep the light on, stay warm, and hold on to each other. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoy staring into the abyss safely from behind a screen, consider checking out my collection of short stories, FIDA, Hidden Story of Every Person. It explores these kinds of philosophical terrors and comforts in more depth. The link is down below. See you in the next one.